All right, let's jump right in. Imagine for a second if your city had like a secret twin, a perfect digital copy that could actually predict the future. Sounds a little bit like science fiction, right? Well, it's not. Today, we're going to explore this incredible concept called digital twins and how they're being used to build virtual cities to solve some really big, real world problems.
Just try to picture it. Your entire city. I'm talking every street, every building, all the traffic, even the air you breathe. All of it, mirrored perfectly inside a virtual space.
And we're not just talking about some static Google Maps style image here. No way. This thing is a living, breathing model. It changes and updates itself in real time. It basically captures the pulse of the city. So, what if we could use this model to test out our biggest, wildest ideas? See the future before it actually happens, and then use that knowledge to build a better one. This isn't just some fun thought experiment. This is the whole idea behind digital twin technology. So, why go to all this trouble? Why build a whole virtual city? Well, it's to tackle a problem that a lot of us face every single day, maybe without even realizing it. I'm talking about the invisible threat that's just floating in our air. Get this. Our ground transportation sector, all our cars, buses, trucks, is responsible for roughly a quarter of all human-caused greenhouse gas emissions. That is a huge number, and it's all driven by something as simple as how we get around. You know, all that traffic isn't just an annoyance that makes you late for work. It's a massive source of air pollution. And that has some pretty serious consequences for our health. It puts a huge strain on our cities, and yeah, it contributes big time to climate change. Okay, so a problem this big and this complex, it needs a much smarter approach, right? And that's exactly where the city's virtual twin comes in. It's a whole new kind of tool for a new era of planning our cities. So what exactly is a digital twin? Well, to put it simply, it's a virtual copy of a real, physical thing, like a whole city. But here's the key. It's not static. It's totally dynamic. It's constantly being fed with real-time data, which makes it an incredibly precise, living reflection of the real thing. And this is where you really see the magic. Think about it. In the real world, trying out a new traffic plan is super expensive, it's risky, and it can mess up everyone's commute. But inside the digital twin, it's a completely risk-free simulation. We can ask what if as many times as we want. What if we put a new bike lane here? Or what if we switch the whole bus fleet to electric? The twin gives us data-driven answers without anyone having to lay a single brick. Okay, so this isn't just some cool theory. This stuff is actually happening. Let's take a look at how it works in the real world with a project down in Monterey, Mexico called MAITwin-TEC. Probably the best way to wrap your head around what they're building is to think of it like a super realistic, data-connected version of the game SimCity. But instead of just building some fun fictional town, they are modeling a real one with real data to solve very real pollution problems. So how on earth do you build something this complicated? Well, it's all about layering data. Seriously, think of it like stacking a bunch of transparent maps, one on top of the other. The MAITwin-TEC project, for instance, starts with the city's basic layout. Then they add the transportation network. Then they layer on all this rich detail, like what kinds of cars are on the road, real-time traffic flow, even weather data. All of those layers combine to create this incredibly detailed, living model of the city. All right, so once the twin is built, that's when the real fun begins. This is where city planners can start running simulations, testing out all sorts of ideas for a greener, healthier future, just by asking that super powerful question, what if? And there's a really clear process for how they turn all that raw data into actual solutions. First, you've got to collect and pull together all those different layers of information. Next, you run some really powerful computer models on that data. This is the part where planners can test out different scenarios, like changing traffic light timing, or maybe creating a new low-emission zone. And then the final step, and this is the most important one, is to generate actionable insights. We're talking clear answers that can help guide real-world decisions. Of course, those insights are only as good as the models you're using, right? Accuracy is everything. So the MAITwin team, for example, chose a model called MOVES, which was developed by the US EPA. And they picked it specifically because it lets them make all these key local adjustments. I mean, things like the average age of the cars in the city, or even the specific type of fuel being used. That level of detail is what makes the predictions so much more reliable. And this is a fantastic example of how all those pieces fit. You take the emissions data, you combine it with the weather patterns and the city's geography, and a model like AirMod can actually predict where pollution is going to be the worst. It literally shows planners exactly where the hotspots are and who's going to be most affected.
So when you get right down to it, the digital twin is basically a bridge. On one side, you have all these smart ideas, like new bus routes or more bike lanes. On the other side, you have all this real-world data. The twin connects them, letting planners see the impact of their ideas on real people and goods so they can pick the options that are actually going to work.
Okay, so this technology is obviously super powerful, but let's zoom out for a second and talk about what this all really means for you. How do these virtual models actually create a real-world impact? Really, the end goal here is just to make our daily lives better. By giving city planners this incredible power to test and tweak their ideas in a virtual world, the technology helps them make way better decisions in the real one. And that leads to things like cleaner air, less traffic, and cities that are just healthier and more livable for every single one of us. And you know what's really wild? This whole concept is so much bigger than just cities. The idea of creating a virtual, data-fed twin is absolutely exploding across all kinds of industries. Think about aerospace. Engineers can test a jet engine virtually under thousands of different flight conditions before a single physical part is ever made. Or in healthcare, hospitals can model their entire operation to find bottlenecks, cut down on patient wait times, and just improve care. It's a massive shift in how we design and manage our most complicated systems. Which kind of leaves us with one final big thought. We're getting really, really good at creating these incredibly detailed, predictive models of reality. This technology gives us a peek at the consequences of our choices before we make them. So the real question is, with this kind of incredible power, what kind of future are we going to choose to build?